When I hiked the Long Trail in 2017, Chica and Sunsets were two of the friends I was fortunate to be able to consider part of my trail family. I got together with them this past weekend in Madison, Wisconsin, where they shared lots of memories of their time on the trail, their keys to success, and their thoughts for upcoming thru hikers. Come sit and join us while we have some time together.
A special surprise for you. I happen to be in Madison, Wisconsin this weekend with my daughter, and look who I bumped into. Well, I didn't really bump into you. We made plans to get together.
Yes.
But Chica and Sunsets are here.
We're so glad you're here in Madison.
Thank
in this
you.
Negative temperature weather.
I know. I think I'd rather be in a polar vortex here, though, than on the trail.
That's true.
Those poor people that have started the trail already and are having to deal with this.
I can't imagine.
That's
too
a lot.
Yeah.
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
So they have agreed to have a small interview session with me and answer some questions, and we can learn what they're doing now and what their plans are. So as we start off the season of hikers, and I started thinking about the things that are overwhelming and intimidating to me. Do you remember what things were intimidating to you when you started the trail?
I was very nervous just to start and be out there and just do everything with our gear for the first time. Like, I mean, we had practiced hanging a bear bag and we didn't really practice getting water. So everything was just new. Like, what happens if our water filter doesn't work? Or what if we're not doing it the right way? Or, I don't know, what if we can't get our tent set up? I mean, it was just really silly stuff, but you just start getting nervous about stuff. I don't know. It all worked out great, though.
Did you have people judge you on the trail for not knowing how to do things correctly?
No, in fact, the opposite. We found out that everybody is in the same boat, especially the first week on the trail. Everybody is trying to figure stuff out. They don't know how to set up their tent. We met some people who just didn't know how, but everybody helps everybody. Nobody was judging in the beginning that I remember. It was very welcoming, and we got comfortable pretty quickly.
Good. And the people made you just as comfortable as the actual trail itself.
Uh-huh. Yeah. It was cool to be on the trail because we've been thinking about it for so long.
Did you take a lot of time to prep for your trail?
Yeah, about a year and a half.
Yep. And during that year and a half, we were most of that time we were living in Costa Rica, up in the mountains. So we were hiking 6 or 8 miles a day, a lot of times with our backpacks. The overnight experience was kind of where we had limited experience before we hit the trail. We only did one gear shakedown trip where we spent a couple nights out, and luckily it rained. I say luckily because we got to see some deficiencies in our rain gear, our rain setup, and but yeah.
It worked out well for you.
It ended up, yeah.
Yeah, and you guys, it's a dream of every thru hiker to be successful, which you guys were. It's huge.
Yeah.
I have questions written down because I don't remember them otherwise. Was there anything absolutely crazy that you remember seeing on the trail that blew your mind away?
Easy.
Okay, so I have two stories. One dealing with a person, one dealing with animals. Actually, two with animals. So the person story, this one was strange. So we get to this campsite. I can't remember what state it was in. Maybe Massachusetts. Anyway, so we get to this campsite, and it's right along this river. It is a very large campsite.
With a shelter.
With a shelter up the hill a little ways. And we see this perfect tent spot. It's right by the river. We could hear the river. It's flat. There's no rocks and roots. And it seemed like all the other tent spots were taken. And so I put the tent, start putting it up. And this guy comes running down from the shelter, and just crazed eyes. And he says, "That's my spot." And I'm like, I have a tendency of being a smart ass, but the look in this guy's eyes, I backed up. I said, "You know what? Okay, it's yours. Take it."
Which was the best thing to do.
Because this guy looked like he was ready to throw down, and I didn't mind.
Had you ever seen him on the trail before?
No.
This was just a one and done sort of.
No, I think we heard him. I think he was ahead of us that day, and I think we heard him yelling at himself. I think I remember that.
That may have contributed to the crazy.
But The other one has to do with another sort of animal. We summited a mountain in New Jersey, and we see the blueberry bushes rustling, and all of a sudden, two black objects start running straight towards us. And Jen thought they were
like wild
boars,
because
or
you couldn't really
hogs.
see them because they were in the bushes. The berry bushes were really thick, and you could just see these things like running right at you. I'm like, what are we gonna do? And then all of a sudden they saw us and they turned, and they were like juvenile bears.
Oh, wow.
And they ran
Two
off
black bears,
as soon as
yeah.
they saw us.
Wow.
But that was kind of scary.
So no mama bear came after
No.
that?
Wow. We were really, and we only saw 4 bears total, so that was 2 of them.
And no interaction with them.
No.
It was just seeing them from afar.
Yeah,
No,
we
we
couldn't even
didn't
get a picture.
Yeah, we didn't even get a picture.
Oh,
Yeah.
bummer.
I know.
You know, I'm really relieved that you're not saying that your weirdest thing on the trail was heading into a campsite one night in Vermont and having a woman say, "Hey, your beard is looking great." Because when I hiked the Long Trail 2 years ago was the year that Chica and Sunsets were hiking the AT, and I had been watching their videos, having no idea that I would ever get to meet them. And they came into the campsite one night after Greg had just started growing his beard on the trail after Chica had been encouraging him for months. And I think that must have been a very off-putting thing. I think about that now, doing my own videos and having people know things about me and me know nothing about them.
Yeah.
That's got to be kind of a creepy...
I remember when we came
I thought you
into
were
that-
creepy for sure. you looked the part. No, we were fine with it.
I remember coming into the shelter that night and seeing you down there because you were like down the hill with your
Yes.
hammock, and you just like looked at us. You're like,
I was
I know you
starstruck.
guys, and we're like, have we met you before? We didn't know who it was. But right away you're like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to be like starstruck, but I watched your videos. And
Well, and it was true, and we ended up being in close proximity for about a week, and towards the end of the days we would end up meeting up, and you guys were kind enough as the days were getting short to let me hike with you at the end of the days as we were trying to muscle through.
For sure.
And we were in
That's
Rutland,
great.
Vermont together for a day.
at the Yellow Deli.
At the Yellow Deli, what an experience that was. Did you have a favorite hostel on the trail?
We had a couple.
My favorites were Bearded Woods in Connecticut,
I haven't heard of that.
Rock and Soul,
Okay.
and
Where was Rock and Soul?
I don't know, Pennsylvania. That's
Maybe.
where our tent broke.
Yeah. Doe River was nice. You know, and each hostel really is dependent upon the owner because they're all very basic. I mean, you're in a bunk, and the cleanliness is kind of iffy sometimes, but the owner or owners really make the experience, and I think those 3 places were indicative of that.
Plus, they had really good food at Rock and Soul.
Rock and Soul, oh my
Did-
goodness.
She made homemade dinners, homemade breakfast.
Really?
And Bearded Woods did a homemade dinner at his wife too. Really
Yeah.
good.
I definitely have to start
You
those
have to
in my
stay
book
at
then
those two
and
places.
make it a priority. I know that Yellow Deli was a priority for me because so many people talk about it on the trail, and it has people that feel one way or another about it either way. Either they're completely intrigued with it or can be turned off by it. And I found it to be a really nice experience.
We did too.
I liked the food and I liked the location right in Central.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a great location.
Yeah, and you could walk to everything. And one of the interesting things that happened there is they had like a kind of a street fair, and Sister Hazel, the rock band or folk band, was playing, and we actually went down and got to meet the 2 guys
That's so great.
from Sister Hazel.
Were you there that night?
I was. I didn't. I
Okay.
wasn't at the concert with you. It was
Okay.
also the first time I had had a curfew since I was like in high school because they closed the hostel down at like 10 o'clock or something.
Oh,
We
I
had to
don't
get back in, and
remember
I think I
that.
was really intimidated to make sure I was back in my bunk in time. So you guys were braver than I was.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good night. That was a hard day hiking the day before. And then
Yes,
we took
going up over Killington
Yeah,
and coming down.
Killington. Yeah.
Your first 4,000 footer in a while, right? By the time you were there, it probably been a while since you had a 4,000
I
footer.
just remember saying Killington can
Killed
kill
us.
you. It was hard for some reason. It was really hard.
It is.
Yeah.
It
So we're
is.
like, we need a break.
I'll remember that as I come back up to it again this year. So speaking of food at hostels, did you have foods that you craved on the trail? Things that you loved?
So I had different foods I like to have on the trail, and
Okay.
then I had different foods I liked when I got to town. So on the trail, I really liked the sweet tart minis. They're little sweet tart candy, like really small, but I don't know, you could just suck on them for a long time, and they had a really good flavor, but they weren't too sour. So I really like those, and Jolly Ranchers, and candy, like candy bars.
I love Jolly Ranchers too.
Jolly Ranchers, yeah. Were you the one that was telling me this means I get to hike for like 45 minutes?
So I have a thing with Jolly Ranchers that when I have one, I don't let myself bite it. I can only suck on it. I make rules,
Me
right?
too.
Because you're bored.
I have no such rules.
Go ahead and chew it away. And I found out that basically a Jolly Rancher lasts me a half mile. So when I was going up something steep or difficult and I would put a Jolly Rancher in, I knew by the time that I had had one, I had just accomplished a half mile.
Exactly.
It's silly psychology that you play with yourself, but sometimes it's just getting through
helps.
a half hour or 10 minutes.
Right.
Games hikers play.
They seem kind of crazy to everybody else, I'm sure.
Yeah.
How
It
about
works.
you? Did you have favorite foods?
I did. On the trail, I really enjoyed jerky, and I never got tired of it. I got tired of almost every other type of food there was, but I can eat the heck out of jerky. Some stores have dehydrated mangoes that are chili dusted,
Ooh.
chili and salt, and I really love those. I only found them a couple times, but I really like those. And then in town, burgers and pizza and beer, copious amounts of
Nice
beer.
beer.
I started craving salads after we got going into the trail a bit. So every time we come to town, I also eat pizza and pizza and burgers, but I get like a Caesar salad too. I just was always craving Caesar salads. So kind of weird.
One of my girlfriends suggested that we should be dehydrating wine for the trip. I was wondering why somebody hasn't done that already. They've done like
Can you
dehydrated
dehydrate
bone
wine?
broth.
They're called raisins.
That was good.
One time though, we hiked with our friends and they brought with them the little boxes of wine, and that was great.
Yeah.
It was really nice.
Yeah, we packed out wine a couple times.
Yeah, for our birthdays.
Yeah.
When we both had a birthday, we'd take wine and
Or
a
bourbon.
cigar.
Yeah.
And maybe I need to stay on the trail long enough to have my birthday on the trail then.
There you go.
Maybe 4th of July will be a good reason. Or I'll find reasons, I'm
Oh
sure.
yeah, just make your own reason.
That's right. What did you like most about the trail? Kind of a big, broad question.
I really liked the people we met, the hikers we met on the trail angels. We had several people invite us into their homes who we didn't know who they were. That happened about 5 or 6 times, and they were always really great experiences. What else did I like about the trail? What else did
You know, it's interesting being a year and a half, 2 years past our finish time. Just the fact that we accomplished something so large, such a achievement, is one of my favorite things now. But I think the people, it was surprising. Jen and I are both somewhat introverted, and we met so many people, and it was so natural to become friends with people because you're all thinking the same thing. Where am I going to sleep? What am I going to eat? And how far do I gotta go the next day? So all other conversations that tend to bog people down, like politics or religion or any disagreements. We hiked in 2017, coming out of a very contentious election time, and it was so nice that people were focused on things other than politics.
Yeah. That was really freeing in a way.
Yes, I'm sure it was. Do you have anything about the trail that bothered you or that was really difficult?
Every day was difficult.
Yeah.
Every day had its own challenges, but we also felt very competent at the end of the day after we accomplished that challenging day. So it was kind of a give and take situation. The heat was really hard, especially for Greg in New York. We had some really, really hot days and hot nights. It's so hard to sleep when it's just so hot out and you can't get cool. And then sometimes the mosquitoes would be really bad. Those were some really annoying days when they're just hovering in your face.
Yeah, I'm extremely susceptible to heat exhaustion. I'm pretty sure I had heat stroke when I was a kid, and they say if you've had heat stroke, you're much more susceptible. So I really had to recognize the warning signs, which was mainly Jen's part.
I had to recognize.
She would say,
because
Greg, you're extremely cranky right now. I think you're getting too hot.
That's not just hunger talking.
right.
So,
I mean, he never gets cranky really. So when he would get really like
snippy and just
it would
mean.
be uncharacteristic.
Yeah, so things that really helped me during that time was having a chill rag, having her to chill me out too, and just stopping when I was hot and not continuing. And I think for a while there, for a couple of weeks, maybe a week and a half, we would stop midday and not hike at lunchtime until 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and then finish up. But and try to wake up a little earlier.
Yeah, we get up earlier.
So you just kept adjusting for success throughout the trail.
Mm-hmm.
And did you have a lot of cold weather or snowy weather when you started?
But 2 snowstorms.
Yeah, which we kind of just made up our minds to get out of because we didn't have heavy duty winter gear because we started March 23rd. So in Franklin, North Carolina, we were able to stay with friends, which was really great.
Thank you, Debbie and Jim.
Yeah, thank you so much. And Roan Mountain was another snowstorm, which is very high, and we heard it was just going to be really windy, snow, really cold, and we just got off trail. Luckily, we were with someone whose husband was picking her up, and she offered a ride to us, so we kind of had to make a split decision, which is usually hard for me because I like having everything planned out.
But the wind was blowing about 80 miles an hour.
Yeah.
No kidding.
It was so windy at that point, so we're like, let's go.
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah. So those are probably the two coldest situations.
You mentioned trail magic. Do you have a favorite kind of trail magic?
Ice cold Mountain Dew.
There you go.
So good.
Ice cold beverages on a hot day, unexpected, there's just nothing quite like it.
Anything different than water that's cold is just like so nice.
Or your electrolyte tabs, or
Yeah, anything with flavor in them.
right.
Yeah, and as you know, in the beginning of the trail, if you're going no-bow, you get all these nice cold springs. Plus, it's earlier in the season. But as you get to New York and New Jersey and further on, those middle states, your water is always lukewarm, even when it comes out of a spring, and it's just unappetizing. So, a nice cold, ice cold soda is great.
That's awesome. I remember hiking in the Whites and having people leave drinks in the river.
Because it was cold
and being a nice cold spot to have refreshments.
Yeah.
So I always felt badly taking one because I wasn't a through hiker, but this time I will be able to do it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Looking forward to that.
Guilt-free.
That's right. That's right. Are you guys glad that you did a video blog of your journey?
Yeah. I mean, we got to meet you. We got to meet a lot of people that way who took us into their homes, which we really appreciated that. And also,
Go ahead.
I wanted to mention the comments on YouTube. They really helped us on some days when we were having kind of bad days or just having a hard time or just life was hard on the trail. Everyone, they're so supportive, and they'd always be commenting, "You guys got this, you're doing great," and it really helps lift you up.
Absolutely.
So I really like that part of it, because whenever we get to town, we look at all our comments and we'd be like, "Oh, this is so nice." So
Yeah, and also I think we've gotten comments since from other people who are considering the trail, saying, your videos have helped us decide we want to do this,
Yes.
and I think that's great.
And not only your videos, but your books. You've written 2 books about
Yep.
the Appalachian Trail since the trail, and both have been valuable to me. First, your tips on the Appalachian Trail, and then secondly, Jen's book that you've just come out with, Chica's on the Appalachian Trail. Both invaluable and very empowering. They both, really made me feel like
Thanks.
I can do this. So thank you for sharing that. I find that I learn best by watching. So YouTube seems to be an easier way for me to learn than necessarily reading a book. Did you guys find that? Did YouTube help you in your preparations?
Very much. It was integral to us preparing for this.
best thing about YouTube is you can actually see the trail as people are experiencing it, which is totally different than just reading about it. Just visually seeing it, how hard some of the parts are.
Yes.
It's good to know before you get out there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and we had some favorite people we watched. Darwin on the trail was one of them. Ryan Johnson had through hiked the year before us.
Crystal
And
Weaver.
Crystal Weaver hiked it a couple years before us with her husband, but I really liked her video. She was just really down to earth. Yeah.
That's great. It's exciting. So what's coming up next for you guys?
Coming up right next is a trip to Costa Rica. We're going to spend 6 weeks there and see some friends from when we lived there, do some hiking, and
We're going to stay overnight in a cave.
In a cave?
yeah.
Is it intended that you're supposed to spend the night there,
There's
or
a
are you just
there's a
crawling in?
waterfall that comes down over
And there's
it.
beds.
Well, I wouldn't call them beds.
There's mats.
You're not bringing your thermarest with
No,
you.
no thermal rest.
No.
That's great. Sounds like a great trip. Do you have any hiking plans coming up?
Not really. After Costa Rica, we're going to be moving to Franklin, or around the Franklin area of North Carolina. We're not exactly sure where we'll land yet, but we want to be closer to the trail and probably do something with the hiking community in the future.
That's great.
So we'll see what happens.
The trail is going to be lucky to have you close by. You guys have both been really influential. Any words of advice for me or for other hikers that are leaving for the trail soon this year?
Start out slow, and you can do it. If we can do it, anybody can do it, really.
Yeah. We feel really good about you because you have a lot of experience already. You did the long trail. Which how many miles was that?
I think it's 280.
Okay. So you've done a lot of gear testing, you know what it's like, but definitely starting out slow helped us because the mountains in Georgia are hard right off the bat. So we started by going like 8 to 10 miles a day for the first week, and then gradually built up to 16 or 17 miles over like 4 or 5 weeks.
Yeah, it took us over a month before we were doing 15-mile days.
Okay.
But by then, we'd lost weight. We had got our pack weight right. We had gained fitness, and we were injury-free. Where a lot of the people that were around us were already doing 15 and 18-mile days, 20-mile days, and they had to deal with foot injuries and things like that. I think starting out slow, especially for us, was one of the keys that allowed us to complete the entire trail.
It's really good advice.
Yeah. Oh, and also listen to your body. I mean, if you're having just a really hard, tiring day and you think, oh, I have to do my 20 miles today, if your body's telling you otherwise, just listen to it. Just sleep, find a tenting spot somewhere else, or if something is bothering you that could be the start of an injury, if you take care of it right away, you could probably tackle it instead of waiting for it to get worse.
But it takes a little bit of time to discern the difference between normal hiking pain and serious pain.
Yeah, that's true.
Because there are, your feet are going to hurt, your legs are going to hurt every single day after a couple weeks. But when you feel something that's not quite right, listen to your body and take the time off.
I promise. But it's going to be hard because you want to get out and do the trail, right?
Yeah. Go ahead.
All right, so as we close up, I have a lightning round for you.
Lightning round.
lightning
Lightning
round.
round,
Hands on
right?
buzzers.
AT or Camino?
18.
18.
Smart wool or darn tough?
Darn tough.
Darn tough.
Wine or beer?
Wine.
Both. But not together.
Why one or the other? And vanilla or chocolate?
Chocolate.
Inconsequential. Beer.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Really good to see you again.
Great
and
seeing you.
so strange to see each other like wearing real clothes
I
and like with our
know.
hair cleaned and everything,
No braids or anything.
For either of us, it's perfect. It's really good to see you again.
Thanks for having
Thanks.
us.